This is the Entrepreneur Unleashed Show, episode 57 with TR Garland.
The Entrepreneur Unleashed. The Entrepreneur Unleashed. The Entrepreneurs Unleashed. The podcast where purpose and passion become revenue streams. Be real. Take a stand. Change lives. Here's your host, Patty Keating.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Unleashed Show. I'm your host, Patty Keating. Entrepreneurs everywhere are creating a new breed of business success. They're making their own rules, taking a stand for their purpose, leading through integrity, and making money by changing lives. Join me each week for compelling messages that will inspire and empower you to unleash your true purpose.
My guest today is TR Garland. He is a Wall Street Journal award winner who knows firsthand that the three common challenges all entrepreneurs, small business owners, and service-based professionals face are being found, being heard, and being hired. And we are going to hear more about that today. You know, after a decade of high-impact behind-the-scene roles in 7 and even 8-figure environments, TR has created a systematic and replicatable process for anyone to follow to help them overcome these common challenges using nothing but their free LinkedIn profile. His 3-step success system will instantly help you increase the number, consistency, and quality of prospects and prospective partners that you can attract. His Leveraging LinkedIn program is recognized as the world's first and only program 100% dedicated to teaching entrepreneurs, small business owners, and service-based professionals how to use the world's largest social networking platform to get more prospects, partners, platforms, publicity, and positioning.
Welcome, TR. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's an honor to have you. I want to go ahead and let you tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I know that obviously this is a specific interview so that we can add value to your audience. And I know that obviously up front, there's typically a question that is, an open-ended question, just like what you asked, which says, tell my community a little bit more about you, TR. And while I respectfully appreciate that, and I will answer it very briefly, I'd like to point out that this conversation isn't about me. And respectfully, it's not about you. It's about how you pulled together someone in your network so that we can have a friendly conversation and talk about my experiences and what I did in order to get where I'm at. So what I'm saying is this conversation is about your audience. So real quickly, let me simply say that I'm just an average guy, just like everybody who's listening to this interview right now. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I spent some time in Boston, in the Coventry, Rhode Island area. I grew up most of my life in Chicago, and I went to school on the Illinois-Iowa border, right on the Mississippi. And then when I was 27 years old, I moved to the West Coast. So I've certainly gotten the culture of the United States, and I've seen, business conducted in all sorts of different communities and different regions. And therefore, that's given me experience to even be considered as a guest expert on your podcast.
Yes. Well, thank you for reframing that. I love that this is about the audience because that's what we want here is for people to learn and grow and network and understand some of the gold that you have to share. So let's dive in and hear about the business that you're in. What inspired you to get started with this?
So this is a pretty cool story. So I actually went to a private college for the first 3.5 years. And then I transferred during my senior year, even though that I knew that I had to go an additional year because all of my credits didn't transfer. And I went to a private school originally, and I would have gotten an international management, degree. I would have gotten a political science degree. And what I found was by the time I was a senior, I'm like, wait a second, I'm just taking some basic courses and then I'm going to get a degree. How am I going to go out there in the marketplace and compete? And I found a different school that actually offered more focused courses. One of them was on sales and sales management, and another was on MIS, Management Information Systems. It was kind of like the precursor acronym to IT, or information technology. And so I transferred schools, and when I went to the first day of my sales and sales management class, the teacher's name was Mr. Green, Sean Green, and he asked the whole class, he said, how many of you think that when you graduate from school, you're going to be in a sales role? And honestly, Patty, I was like one of two or three people that raised their hands, and nobody else raised their hand. And he said, you're all wrong because you're all going to be in a sales role, and you need to communicate better with other individuals, whether you think it's selling or not. Right? You could be in a different department of a company or a business, but you still always need to sell something. And you and I both know that's about influence, and that's about inspiring people to action. So I just wanted to preface, that part of my answer to the fact where I knew right away that I was going to get into sales. And in my 20s, I got into the Fortune 1000, Fortune 500 companies, and I excelled as a salesperson. By the time I was 23, I was ranked number 3 out of a nationwide sales force. By the time I was 27, I was ranked number 9 out of an international sales force. And by the time I was 29, I'd had it working for the man. I had it because I felt that there were people that I was surrounding myself with that didn't share the same business philosophy. In other words, a lot of them lacked the integrity and professionalism that I thought corporate America was going to be. And so I chose then and there at 29 years old that I wasn't going to work for anybody else, that I wanted to do my best and select my own industry, my own partners, so that I could surround myself with individuals that shared the same philosophies, that shared the same values and virtues as myself, so that I could lead a better life, a happier life, because I love business. Business is a hobby. Business is excitement for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what really inspired me to start my path on entrepreneurship is the fact that other people who I was working with were actually horrible people, to be quite blunt.
Yes. And you made that decision to live life on your own terms. You held your values and honored them and took the leap. So tell us what happened. You jumped in with both feet.
I did. So I was always someone who had my T's crossed and my I's dotted. And I married my analytical side with my sales and marketing side, my outgoing side. And that's why I was successful in sales. I wasn't always someone that just was great at sales and then handed off the paperwork, to someone else to finish everything. I liked having my hands in a lot of things. And that came in handy when I started my first business as an entrepreneur, which was involved in real estate. And to summarize on this story is that I became a real estate appraiser because I liked the analytical side of things. And it was right when you could start using computers to analyze trends in marketplaces and on streets and things like that. And so I used my analytical skills to create a top tier appraisal report. And then I used my sales and management skills that I learned in corporate America to land massive deals with major corporations. And what I did was I mastered the sequence that needed to be followed. I got my hands dirty and my knees dirty and wore out my own shoes doing all of the tasks in my business first, creating formulas and frameworks, structures and systems and sequences, and then I started doing hiring in offsetting, right? And outsourcing to my independent contractors or employees at the time. And you know what happened? I was wildly successful. 17 employees in Newport Beach, California, my own office. Many of my employees were taking home 6 figures by just showing up to work. But what was happening on the personal side of things, Patty, was that the stress year over year was just compounding. The stress year over year of it being my company, my name of my company, my brand name recognition, all of this, it just compounded. And I started to, in some senses, resent some of my employees because I'd be like, what are you talking about? I would love to just be able to show up to work and generate six figures. Yes, I'm the business owner, but I'm the quarterback. We're a team here. So I started to have some conflict with certain people at my business. And what transpired was that the stress year over year over year ended up causing me to have some health challenges. And those health challenges for me showed up in the form of panic and anxiety disorder. So I developed panic attacks, plain and simple, for almost what you could consider no reason. It was normal stuff that I was doing, but I started to, get sweaty palms and feel like I was having a heart attack when I would be driving in traffic. And you know that I live in Southern California and you can't get away from driving in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So the simplest thing of driving from my home to my office, which was maybe a 10-15 minute drive, I would look at the clock at 2:00 and I'd be like, I've got to get on the road by 3. Otherwise I'm going to get stuck in traffic for a whole 3 exits. But at the time it was amplified. And then I started to have panic attacks when I was in crowded places, and then when it was raining, and then when it was hot, and then when flying. And so the message that I want to convey to those listening to our conversation today is that here I am, great at my skills of business. I proved it in the Fortune 500 world by being amazing at sales and sales management. I proved it by building a very successful entrepreneurial organization and employing 17 employees. However, I was working hard. I wasn't working smart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that you've heard this before and your audience has heard this before, but now we can actually apply it to a real world scenario that actually lasted 6 horrible, horrifying years. Panic attacks are crippling. They're absolutely crippling. And for those of you that have not experienced them, it really is, you're in a normal scenario, but in your mind, it's like the world's crumbling. It's like a whirlwind and you're losing control. And so here I was, responsible for other people's incomes, responsible for continuing to grow my business. And because I was working hard, not smart, that's why they developed.
So how did you move through that, TR?
It's an interesting story in and of itself. I myself have never really, up until that point, I never had my own mentor. I never had a mentor that I could say, you know what, I learned a lot from this person. Now, I was inspired by my dad. I was inspired because he was in sales and he provided for our family. And every couple years, we would see, a boost in his income because he worked hard. He methodically worked hard and figured out things and would continually increase his own personal income and revenue. So I can say that I looked up to my dad. However, I can't say that he was a true mentor when it came to me being in sales or me building my own business. And so I simply pieced together many things from going to sales workshops or entrepreneurial workshops or buying books and things like that. Up until that point, I'd never, quote unquote, hired a personal coach or a personal mentor. I just felt like because I had the ambition and because I was a rather smart kid, that I would figure it out. But by me having that independent approach of I'm just going to figure it out is what resulted in me having these panic attacks.
Yeah.
So realistically, where it shifted for me was I said, all right, I have to figure this out. I have to figure this out for my future, myself, my family. And amazingly enough, I ended up buying a $400 product off of a late night infomercial. I'm dead serious. I literally was up late and there's a Lucinda Bassett is her name. She actually created an info product, right? The irony of this right here, because you and I both utilize information marketing or educational based marketing to build our businesses. the irony here is that here I was, my medium was late at night, I was watching TV, and she bought ad space and ran a traditional infomercial that had case studies of real life people that had panic attacks and anxiety disorder and that had overcome it by buying her program. And I'm like, I've got to solve this. I've got to figure out why. And so I did. I might have even invested $1,000. I can't remember at the time. But that program was what all it took. I mean, it literally was the bulk of what it took because it told me why I was experiencing them, right? Because I'm an intellectual guy. Most entrepreneurs are. Most of your audience is very, very smart. We are all intellectual. We see things, we figure out things. But it was more matter of fact. It was like, oh, this is why I'm experiencing this. Oh, this is the path that I need to take in order to overcome them. So I literally went through like a 9-week audio program on my own, a self-study, and started to see better results.
Wow. That's an incredible story.
It's, you know what? This is the first time that I've kind of pieced all those pieces together with regards to the irony of it being information marketing and education-based marketing. But yeah, when we both now stop to think about it, which is considering where I am today and where I was back then, it never really was about the money. I've been generating at least 6 figures, since I was in my 20s, as I explained. But it was about the health.
Yes.
Right? It was about the emotional trauma that I was putting myself through, and gearing up for trips and driving and things like that. So what I would say to your listening audience is, yes, my challenge was panic attacks. My challenge was that. And your challenge could be something similar, or it could be something completely different. It might be that you're working too hard and your relationship is sacrificing with your friends, family, spouse, loved ones, partners, et cetera, et cetera. It could be that your health is failing or going down the wrong path because you're working too hard. I mean, Patty, you and I have conversations with people in our communities, and I'm confident that you've heard someone before tell you a story about yesterday or last week or last month to where they had to scream across the hall from their home office and say, honey, I can't come to bed right now. You know that I've got a deadline, right?
Right.
And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart when they can't be home at the dinner table, with their kids and things like that. So the challenge might be showing up differently in your life, Patty, as well as other people's lives who are listening. However, the solution, I personally believe, is very similar. And I believe the solution is to lean on other people who have either personally been in your shoes and gotten to point B, which is your desired outcome, or that have helped people just like you get from their point A to point B, because it really is about personal mentorship. The solution really is about formulas and frameworks, and it really is about plugging into proven systems that have strategies and sequences to follow. Because you might be independent, you might be desiring to figure this out on your own, but if you follow the sequence in an incorrect order, you might be years away from getting the results that you need today.
Yes. So what did you learn from that info product, TR?
Specifically, at the time, the way that it was designed was very, very effective, which was listen to some education as to why this is happening, perform some exercises on your own, fill out a workbook and use some flashcards, and then listen to these additional bonus audios, which were literally recordings of private sessions that she was having with her other clients, that, there are other people just like me that used to be in similar or worse scenarios, and they followed this proven step-by-step system, and they got out of their funk. So I've always been a firm believer that if someone else can do it, and they are a human being, not a UFO or alien that has different DNA than me, if they are a human being and they accomplish something, I've got an awfully strong chance of accomplishing it as well, and so do other people.
Do you think that that experience of purchasing that program had an impact on the programs that you created later on, which we'll get into where you're at now? I'm just curious about the lesson from that one info product.
You would think that I would say yes, but I have to honestly say no, because I legitimately have not pieced that together until you asked this question today and until certain words came out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because you shared with me that your motto, your mantra, your business philosophy for your community in this podcast is to be real, take a stand, and change lives. And therefore, I didn't really pre-plan any specific messages because I have no other agenda other than having a friendly conversation with you and serving your community. And so after this call, I can honestly say that I'm going to reverse engineer and probably bring it up more in my training. But yeah, prior to today, I did not piece together the fact that this woman, Lucinda Bassett, used education-based marketing in order to reel me in and cause me and compel me to take action on something that I made my own decision. Right? I think that's the lesson that we all can extract from it, which is this was a 40-minute, infomercial. And it was and it wasn't always sales. It wasn't always buy this, buy this, buy this. It was real world examples mixed in. It was education mixed in. And that's what captivated my attention. And that's what kept me there. And then ultimately, when the offer was made, the invitation to invest in that program was made, my pain was powerful enough to say, even if $1,000 at the time was too much or a lot, I'm like, I do not want this pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so she compelled me to action.
Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward. What are you passionate about now? Tell us what's going on.
Today, what I've seen is that I have been a behind-the-scenes strategic advisor in the speaker, author, coach, consultant, and service-based professional space. Also, I'm very, very deep on the conscious entrepreneurial space. And what I see, through conducting surveys and talking to people and just my general observations is that most people, and in your audience probably included, are facing three hardcore challenges, just common challenges, but they're hardcore and they can't turn a corner because they're so frustrated. The first challenge is being found, right? Would you agree that your listening audience may be having a challenge being found by their ideal audience?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, being found, right? So that's a core challenge. The second core challenge that I found is being heard, right? Being heard by the appropriate people, because they might be found, but their message might not be heard to its fullest capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people are having trouble being heard, being found and being heard. And the third challenge that I found is that people are having a problem being specific. In other words, how do I differentiate myself from all the other competitors out there or perceived competitors? And let me point out that attention deficit disorder is a perceived competitor of everybody, no matter what business you're in.
Yes.
We are competing for this ADD society, this pattern that we've developed in recent years, in the last decade more specifically. So being found, being heard, and being specific are these challenges that I'm guessing your audience is nodding their head right now as they're listening to us. And therefore, the biggest challenge of them all is being hired. They're not being hired because they're not being found. They're not being hired because they're not being heard. And they're not being hired because they're not being specific. And what I found the most economical and practical solution for overcoming those three challenges was to use your free LinkedIn profile.
Tell us more about that.
I know that you know a little bit more about my backstory, but I honestly get very, very emotional when I hear horror stories about people investing, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, $30,000 in their businesses on either coaches or mentors or training programs or marketing or advertising and not getting the results they expect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for a couple different reasons. One of them possibly being that it's simply out of sequence. It's out of sequence in when they should have done that. And so because I heard these horror stories and I would hear people on the phone with me just physically breaking up and crying and just pouring their hearts out saying, this isn't a hobby for me. I really want to make it happen. But my husband or my wife or my spouse or my partner, thinks that it is and thinks that I should just go back and get a job. Well, I can't. That'll kill me. It's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it breaks my heart hearing those stories.
Yes.
So what I did was I designed a very effective 3-step success system that people could apply to their LinkedIn profile and get results. Honestly, I have a 3-step success system that you can use your free LinkedIn profile to get more prospects, to get more partners, to get more platforms, to get more publicity, and to get more positioning. And all 5 of those things, when you approach it from a holistic perspective, that helps individuals, entrepreneurs, conscious entrepreneurs, build a profitable platform.
Right there on LinkedIn. How many people are on LinkedIn?
433 million people or more are currently registered for having their free LinkedIn profile. And the average income is $120,000 a year. The average education is not just college educated, but it's beyond that. It's masters and beyond. And the neat thing is that I've taught anywhere from your standard business coach or business consultant in how to use their free LinkedIn profile to get results within 4 weeks, all the way to the other end of the spectrum to where spiritual coaches who are going through my program, meditation teachers who are going through my program, energy healers who are going through my program are finding quick results using LinkedIn. And so with your permission, if I could at least share the 3-step success sequence that your audience should be following, I think that will at least deliver them with some actionable information.
Absolutely. I think I'd be in trouble with them if I didn't allow this kind of information to come through. So please go ahead.
I don't want to just inspire people. I want to give them specific tools that they can apply immediately after this interview.
Yes, thank you.
So if the core challenges are being found, being heard, and being specific, and therefore the main challenge is that they're not being hired, well then what 3 things can your audience focus on that will help them overcome those challenges? And so for those of you listening that are taking notes, grab your pen and paper right now and write this down. Step number 1 is be visible. Step number 2 is be vocal. And step number 3 is be valuable. This is what I call the simple and effective 3-step success sequence for finally using your LinkedIn profile to get results. Because let's face it, people have LinkedIn profiles, but they're not getting more prospects. They're not finding more partners. They're not getting on the platforms that they want to, whether it be a live stage or a podcast interview. They're not getting the publicity they want or need, and they're not getting the positioning. So I know, Patty, that this sounds simple, and it is. If it were complicated, it would overwhelm your listening audience. It really would, and they'd feel like they couldn't implement it. So let me just dig a little bit deeper on be visible, be vocal, and be valuable. So what I found is that success on LinkedIn isn't only about learning the right skill set and applying the right strategies. Success on LinkedIn is about adopting the correct philosophy or mindset first. So I'm going to encourage all of your listeners to adopt a new philosophy as it relates to LinkedIn. And when they do, then they can expect new results. So if you adopt a new mindset, you can expect new results. And the mindset that I'm going to ask them to adopt is that LinkedIn is not social media. It's not. LinkedIn is not a social media site. It's a social networking site. And because it's a social networking site, different etiquette must be used, or you're just wasting your time. And to be more specific, I'm going to encourage everybody to adopt the philosophy that LinkedIn itself, it's a huge convention center. And they're really hosting a trade show. And what they've done is they've given you, Patty, me, and all of the listeners, they've given us free trade show booths. That's really what's happened.
I love it.
But what they've also done is given all of our competitors free trade show booths too. And they've invited 433 million people to walk up and down those aisles at that trade show booth. So what I ask is, what have you done to truly captivate the attention of the people walking up and down those aisles, right? What have you done to compel them to action? Whether it be to call you, to opt in for a newsletter, to send you a LinkedIn message. And so what I've done is I have a specific strategy that I'd like to share right now. And that strategy is the sole goal, the sole thing that I encourage all of your listeners to do after our call today is begin to remodel your trade show booth with the purpose to cause the viewer to make micro commitments. You're going to want to write that down, micro commitments. Cause the viewer to make micro commitments in the amount of 3 seconds longer, 30 seconds longer, and even 3 minutes longer. Because you want to captivate their attention, but you want to keep them in your trade show booth. And so oftentimes people ask me, what's the number one mistake people make when using LinkedIn? And I say, well, the number one mistake is that they don't pay attention to their profile now that they know that people are, because they really are. But dig even deeper into the true mistake, it's that now they know that other people are looking at their profile. Have they blocked off 15 minutes or 20 minutes on their calendar here and there to invest the time to remodel that trade show booth to compel someone to action? And here's what I'm saying. I'm going to assume that most people listening, they've got the bare concrete floor in their trade show booth, right? They've got a table. They've got a sign that says John Anderson Incorporated. And they're wondering why they're not getting business from LinkedIn. Well, it's because they have a very underwhelming trade show booth when people are walking past. And so if I look to my left and I see that there's the concrete floor, there's just there's a table that doesn't have a skirt on it, there's business cards on the table, and then there's still just that plain white sign that comes with when you sponsor a trade show booth. Well, that's not going to compel me to step to my left. But if I look to the right and I see a purple rug on the floor and purple and yellow matching colors that is their corporate brand, and they've put that skirt around the table or a tablecloth, and they've got brochures designed, and they took down that boring black and white sign and they put up a banner in the back that said, you know, what would your business look like if instead of spending all of your time in front of people that needed to be sold, you instead were spending all of your time in front of people who had already been sold, right? Something like that draws the psychology of the person walking past that trade show booth into your trade show booth.
I love it. Keep going. It's such a great visual. I've done trade shows in my former business, and it's so true. If you have to capture that attention every few seconds because there's so many other directions that those prospects can go. And it has to be compelling and it has to be engaging. And thinking about applying that concept to your LinkedIn profile is brilliant.
Thank you. It's a game changer for anyone listening to this conversation today if they adopt it, if they fully believe that everything that they do on LinkedIn from today forward, if they approach it from a trade show booth example, they will find success.
Yes.
And so real quickly, I know that we've got a limited amount of time, but with your permission, can I share 3 specific areas that they might want to consider evaluating whether or not they need to up-level them or not?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. So moving down the path with the trade show booth example, let's assume that all you had to attract them was the chocolate candy on the front of your table, right? Or the tchotchke, the giveaway, which might be a squeezy stress ball or something like that. Let's assume that you did captivate their attention and they did step over to your trade show booth, right? Well, the very top of your LinkedIn profile is your front door. It's your front door. It's your welcome mat. And I'm going to assume that a large portion of your audience doesn't even know that they can upload a custom image as a background to their LinkedIn profile. I'm going to assume that a large percentage of them don't. And what I'm going to also implore is that now you know. Even with your free LinkedIn profile, you are allowed to upload a custom banner or a custom image to your LinkedIn profile. So that's like when someone opens your door to your booth or steps 1 foot inside, what do you want them to see? Do you want them to be underwhelmed or do you want them to be captivated? And therefore, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you will see that I have specifically designed my custom background to address 3 core components that will captivate their attention and keep them in my front door and keep them walking through my front door, down the hallway. On the left-hand side of my custom background on my LinkedIn profile is a section that I call Authority Accelerators. Authority Accelerators. Now, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that that's where I have my awards. The Wall Street Journal Award and many other awards that I list up there. The reason why the left-hand side is very important is because most people are going to look at your picture first on your LinkedIn profile, right? Because we're connecting with the other individual and their eyes will predominantly go a little bit to the left of the picture, which is the left-hand side of your custom background. And therefore, once they can connect with you and see that you've got a nice smiling face, you want to climb the credibility ladder with them. And you can do so by highlighting some of your accomplishments. So in other words, your authority accelerators. What can you place on the left-hand side of your custom background that will convey authority? Now, the top portion, right above your picture and above your name and above your headline, is a section that people also look at, and it's often not used, yet it is very valuable real estate. If you look at my particular LinkedIn profile, it actually says, get more speaking gigs. I'm straight to the point with my LinkedIn profile that I'm focusing on using LinkedIn to attract both prospects and prospective partners that might need help getting more speaking gigs. So you'll see the left-hand side is the authority accelerators. The top is just straight and to the point. How do I serve the marketplace? Or it could be, dear conscious entrepreneurs, ... Or it could say, dear women entrepreneurs, ... In other words, you want to go into the psychology of the viewer and have them self-select that they are in the right place. Does that make sense, Patty?
Absolutely.
Right? Have them self-select, by a statement like my Get More Speaking Gigs brand. They're like, oh, shoot, of course I need more speaking gigs. I'm going to self-select myself and I'm going to stay on TR's profile longer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for our mutual friend, Tina Forsyth, Tina actually hired my agency to remodel her trade show booth for her. At the very top of her LinkedIn profile, it says, Dear Conscious Entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are self-selecting themselves as, oh, yeah, that's me. What do you want to say to me? Right? And so their attention is captivated. And then the right-hand side, the third piece that we have enough time for today is, if you look at my profile, that's where I say my program is perfect for speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, trainers, and service-based professionals. However, you could use it if you're a workshop leader to show a picture or two of you teaching a workshop. You could use it as highlighting maybe a prominent business owner in your area that has used your services and that has endorsed you. So these are just a multitude of different thoughts. I wanted to give your audience breadcrumbs, right? Breadcrumbs to lead them down the right direction. But please let me point out that step number one in the sequence is you got to be visible. Then you got to be vocal. Then you got to be valuable. When you follow that sequence, be visible, be vocal, and be valuable, and you drill down into each of those areas, then and only then can you expect to use LinkedIn to build a profitable, predictable, and sustainable platform.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And we will, for the listeners, put a link to TR's LinkedIn profile in the show notes. And you will find the show notes at pattykeating.com/TR Garland, or you can just search TR and it will pull it up for you. So let's go out into the future. You are passionate about this. It comes through in your voice, in your contribution, in the value, in the way you describe what you're up to. I understand how passionate you are, and I know firsthand how passionate you are. Tell me about the future. What's your vision for yourself and your company for the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
So my background realistically was being a behind-the-scenes strategic advisor for people that already were generating 7 and 8 figures. I'm the former executive vice president of Michael E. Gerber Companies, the E-Myth guy. I was with him during the 25th anniversary of the E-Myth. I was with the Think and Grow Rich brand during the 75th anniversary of Think and Grow Rich. I helped Brian Tracy launch a sales certification program that quickly boasted $1 million of revenue. I helped Laurel Langmeyer launch her Yes Energy brand, and we got her onto 5 bestseller lists around the world. And you know what I realized? I realized that I got that experience for a reason. And so I took a year off from business to spend with my daughter prior to kindergarten. And I wanted her to have a strong relationship with a male figure in her life. And so during that time, I spent a lot of quality time with my wife and my daughter. And during that time, I realized that there was a huge void. And that was that a lot of people were being inspired to be the best that they could be, meaning that corporate America might not be for them, that they should be entrepreneurs, whether it be conscious entrepreneurs or spiritual entrepreneurs or service-based entrepreneurs or speakers, authors, coaches, and consultants. But what I realized that there was a void in the marketplace, that a lot of people were getting inspired by the hype and hope that people wanted to hear their story. That you could be a speaker, you could be an entrepreneur, and people want to hear your story. So they were investing in a lot of programs out there, getting certified as coaches or healers or, coming up with a product or service as an entrepreneur, but they were still experiencing roller coaster income. And so definitively, Patty, let me share, definitively, I right now am laser focused on teaching people how to use their free LinkedIn profile to get more prospects, partners, platforms, publicity, and positioning. And if they just knew that someone with my passion, someone with my compassion, and someone with my proven systems was there in their corner for them, I think it would be a breath of fresh air for them.
You are so passionate about this, and I know you have helped many people use their LinkedIn profiles. So tell us about the growth you've experienced. First of all, what's the best advice you ever received?
The most recent best advice was when I hired one of our friends, I won't mention who, but for $25,000 for 1 month of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I was getting back into the game, and I had a couple different things that I could serve the marketplace with. My Get More Speaking Gigs brand, my private coaching, my group coaching. And this person said, "What the heck are you doing, TR? No matter what program someone enrolls in, you're starting them off with your basic LinkedIn training, and they're getting results for like quickly. And he said, you've got to start to stake your claim with one specific niche, that you are the LinkedIn expert for speakers, authors, coaches, and service-based professionals. He's like, because you're going to be pissed off if someone else comes in that doesn't have the relationships or experience in this industry that you have and starts to stake that claim. So let's reverse engineer this so that we can apply it to your audience, not have it be about me. Basically, what I was told by someone outside of my business is that you need to be crystal clear on a highly targeted niche.
Mm-hmm.
When you are crystal clear on that highly targeted niche or community or region of the world, then your messaging can include trigger words and trigger phrases that apply to that particular niche. And it pretty much increases your conversion and shortens your sales cycle and alleviates the need for you to be too salesy.
Yes. Because at that point, you are speaking about your expertise and it's natural. It doesn't feel like there's effort behind it. People can feel that resonance. So the other question about your personal growth is, what personal growth have you experienced as a result of this entire journey since, let's say, you left that corporate job?
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I often refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist. Perfectionism it's a virus. It's a challenge, and it's bad for people, and especially entrepreneurs. A lesson that I learned was to loosen up on what other people think and have trust in your own value. Even if you're just starting out, right? Even if someone's transitioning from, traditional business into being an entrepreneur, I always tell my community members, listen, why do you feel inferior? You've got results in business in general, in different roles, and that makes you who you are. So own that and then just figure out how to apply it to your new role.
Yes. What about tools that support you in your life? What kind of gadgets or tools do you use?
I myself specifically like Evernote. I think Evernote is a really neat tool to keep all of my notes and messages. And, even for my private coaching clients, I take my notes there. I do my tracking and measuring of my online sequences, my conversation notes with my partners and things like that. If your audience is not utilizing Evernote, I would highly encourage them to just take a look. Just, maybe even YouTube, Evernote, and then watch a 15-minute training video on how some people are using that to achieve their personal and professional goals.
I love Evernote. Yes.
Evernote is certainly a really, really neat tool. As you know, my business is in scalability mode, to where I shifted from being a private advisor, for individuals, to serving as many people as possible. So I've got a CRM solution, which is Entreport, and I communicate with my community, through emails and newsletters and things like that. And it would be ridiculous for me not to draw attention to LinkedIn. One platform, one particular tool, and that's how you can think of this. You can think of LinkedIn as a powerful tool that other people just like you are getting results on today, and you just aren't using it. So LinkedIn as a standalone platform, I got to be honest with you, Patty, I do not recommend that any of my clients focus on their own blog or focus on their own website. Why? The dirty little secret that people that get hired to do blogs and websites don't tell their clients is that after you build that, you still need to invest time and money to drive traffic there. Whereas if you invested the time and money to remodel your trade show booth, LinkedIn already has 433 million people walking up and down those aisles. So it would be a disservice to those listening for me not to end by saying, please pay attention to your LinkedIn profile. There are aspects to where at some point you might want to invest $50 a month for premium, but you can and will get results using your free LinkedIn profile if you know the right systems and sequences and strategies to plug into.
Awesome. What about books, podcasts, audio? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching?
I myself have checked out our mutual friend, Kristen Thompson,
Yes.
on her podcast. I've perused and listened to some to yours and many other people, but realistically, I'm laser focused. I don't like to get distracted. I believe that I'm at a place, and I think that a lot of your audience is at a place to where I don't need to learn a ton more. I just need to implement. So I'm in a place right now to where I'm implementing. I'm implementing what I teach in manageable milestones so that I get to my goals, for Q2 and Q3 and Q4 of this year. And you know what? With your permission, when we're talking about tools and we're talking about podcasts and special reports and books and stuff like that, do you think that it would be beneficial if I gave your listening audience a 20-page special report that was specific to how to use LinkedIn, to be found faster?
I think that would be terrific. And we will put a link to that on the show notes pages as well.
Cool. Because I have a special report. It's called 3 Top Secret Tweaks You Can Instantly Make to Your LinkedIn Profile That'll Get You Found on Google.
Ooh, intriguing.
And these are things that someone can implement immediately, and you do not need a LinkedIn premium account for, right? You had me as a guest here because you understand that, my heart is in this. I really mean what I say, and I really want to serve you by serving your community. And the best thing that I can do is teach them practical and tactical strategies that can be accomplished quickly and that don't require any additional income, right?
Absolutely.
If you are interested in getting a special report that isn't just a 1-page, 1-sheet, that you're underwhelmed by, this is a full 20-page action plan. 3 top secret tweaks you can instantly make to your LinkedIn profile that'll get you found on Google. So www.linkedinspecialreport.com. I'll repeat myself. It's very simple. www.linkedinspecialreport.com will give you instant access to this special report that will help you get awfully close to using your LinkedIn profile to be found faster.
That's an amazing gift. Thank you.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Absolutely.
Thank you for being such a generous person in general, not just a generous interview guest and podcast guest, but just who you are. I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you. You're always giving.
Well, if we were in person, we would be giving a big hug to each other because I respect you for what you stand for, right? I respect you for standing up for people in your community and inviting people like me, that have no other agenda other than serving.
Yes, thank you.
You and I have spoken privately about, how it does. It pains both of us to hear these stories about people that have these goals, but they might not ever achieve these goals unless they're surrounded by people like yourself in your community. And, that allows me to put my head on my pillow at the end of the day tonight, saying, you know what, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Patty thought highly of me enough to invite me to simply just be myself and share some quick tips.
Thank you. So looking back, TR, if you were to do this all over again, what would you tell your younger self? I
would tell my younger self to not have as independent an attitude of trying to figure it out on my own. Remember how I said that, for even when my business was very, very successful, I still couldn't consider myself having had like one mentor that I could point out. Prior to 35, 37 years old, even though I was wildly successful, I can't say that I had one specific mentor. If you don't have a mentor in your community, in your family, or in your niche, I would find the investment, no matter how long it took, no matter how hard it was to pull together an investment. And I would interview some mentors and make sure that you resonate with what that mentor stands for. And I would get them in your corner sooner rather than later. I honestly would. We're humans for a reason. We thrive on relationships. We thrive on feedback. We thrive on what other people's input is. And I would be further along my success trajectory had I invested in personal mentors or small group training programs earlier on in my career.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again so much for everything you've shared. I love who you are. I love the work you're doing and what you're up to. And I can't wait to watch this summer of scaling unfold and see where you are next year.
Exactly. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to your audience for paying attention. Thank you for paying attention today to what I had to say. And if anything that I said resonates with you, then I encourage you to react by going to linkedinspecialreport.com, and let's keep this friendly conversation going.
Absolutely. Bye for now.
If you're a visionary leader who has a message for the world and you're ready to unleash your greatness, you don't want to miss this transformational 3-day event coming up in Portland, Oregon, Unleashed Live, where you will learn the exact steps to find your money spot, that place where your purpose and passion become revenue streams. You'll understand how to create a compelling message that resonates with your unique set of ideal clients so you can help more people, make more money, and create the freedom lifestyle business of your dreams. Head on over to pattykeating.com/unleashed-live to learn more and get registered for the live event in Portland, Oregon. See you there.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Entrepreneur Unleashed Show. If you did, please go to pattykeating.com and let me know what you're up to this year in your business. While you're there, be sure to grab your copy of 5 Quick Ways to Share Your Expertise.